The opinions expressed in the following paid program do not necessarily represent those of WJZ AM 1300, CBS Radio, its employees and sponsors.
This is Seth Allen. You're listening to TerpTalk with Bruce Posner.
This is Coons Ford Terp Talk with Bruce Posner. 60 minutes of Maryland athletics and your phone calls at 410-481-1300. Now, here's Bruce Posner and Terp Talk.
All right, we welcome everybody tonight to Terp Talk, bouncing back off of Maryland win last night against Virginia Tech, along with some controversy along the way with the disappearance of Charles Mitchell, and the story still hasn't really come out. Coach Turgeon and the staff is pretty closed-mouthed about it. But to talk about Maryland basketball and to maybe talk a little bit about this situation, we have my good friend and voice of the Maryland Terrapins along with Johnny Holiday for years and years. And that, of course, is Chris Nockey. Chris, welcome in tonight.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start off with the good news. It was a good win, a good second half, strong play by Shaquille Clear against what we have to say was just one lousy team last night. I hate to say that, but how would you phrase it, Chris?
Well, I mean, they haven't had a good year, that's for sure, and there's been a long time in between wins. But I give Tech a little bit of credit over the last 2 or 3 weeks. They've actually played well. They retooled, they redid things. They just don't have a whole lot of talent. Their numbers are down because of injuries, and so they had to change the way they do business, and it's. They played North Carolina very tough the game before the Maryland game. They actually had a pretty good 2 or 3 week run, just had no results to show for it. And I thought last night, that they lost one of their key guys. Barksdale got hurt in the first half and just made them even more thin. And in the second half, they just couldn't keep up. Yeah,
it's someone inspired play by Shaquille Clear. Maybe because he knew he wasn't coming out. I mean, I'm really not sure why, but here's a question. I had somebody email me, and I did publicize you were going to be on the show today. So somebody emailed me a question. Why is it, would you think, that at this point in the season, you think Turge should give Roddy Peters and DeMonte Dodd a little bit more run to see how they could be integrated into the team? Or it just seems like they're not getting a real fair shot at it?
Well, Roddy played 14 minutes last night. And, I thought he played well. And one of the things that Turge said right after the game was he commented about the fact that Roddy had played extremely well in his minutes. And he also, I think he liked, without saying this, I think this is implied, I think he liked having Seth off the ball rather than on the ball. So I do think Roddy will get, is getting more runs. There's multiple answers to that, Bruce. I will tell you this. I think a lot of folks see what's going on in the games, and they don't see any parts of practice and any parts of the prep work that goes into it. And, in DeMonte's case, I don't think he's got great practice habits. I don't think he really has, has really done that thing in practice that really Mark demands, and I think that hurts him a little bit. Now, DeMonte also, when you're a sub, man, it's hard. It's really hard, Bruce, because your job really isn't to come in and kick people's butt. Your job is basically to come in and hold the fort as much as anything else. So I'm thinking back to Clemson, where DeMonte came down and in one possession, on the first possession on the offensive end, on the defensive end, he stepped in early off the foul line and gave a Clemson free throw shooter another crack at a 3-point play. And then on the other end, he had a turnover offensively. And you can't continue to play guys if they come in off the bench really not ready to go. So some of it is on those guys. I think Roddy will get more and more minutes. DeMonte's situation may be a little bit different. That's a little bit more up to DeMonte, I think.
Chris, you've been in all phases of basketball, and everybody respects your acumen to the game. Do you feel in your heart that Seth Allen is really a good or maybe a very good two-guard, and you have questions about him as a point guard? Or do you think his future is a point guard for this team?
it's hard to make a guy a point guard if he's not one. It's one of those positions either you have a feel for it and you are, or you don't have a feel for it and you aren't. I think he's incredibly talented. His ability to get to the rim is really remarkable. He's got great range. He's a bit streaky, but yet you live with that because when he's on, he's terrific. I don't want to throw in the towel on that just yet. I think he's a combination guard. He's probably best served as a two guard, but given the situation and the personnel that they have, I don't think that there was any choice in the matter. Roddy sat out his entire senior season, really wasn't ready to go at the start of this season. And Seth got hurt, and then you sort of thrust him right back in there when he got healthy. I don't think that there was, like I said, I just don't think there was a lot of latitude in the choice.
All right, let's talk just a minute or two about Charles Mitchell. I'm sure you've been asked as much as I have today what happened. And one thing I'll give the Maryland news staff or whatever, they are closed mouth, and you really can't get an answer. And I'm not so sure that's right because the story, how it escalated. You were there last night, and it was escalating out of control. And then kind of like by the end of the game, it just looked like it was somebody who was sent to the locker room for sulking or whatever and came back and it was forgotten about. But some of the stories I've heard today are not good.
Yeah, I wish I had some real insight and could share exactly what happened, but the fact of the matter is I don't. I will just say this. Just because, I played, I was lucky enough to be a Division I player and coach at a Division I level. And you can't believe what happens during the course of a season. You can't believe the squabbles sometimes. It's not all kumbaya, it's and you get a lot of competitive people in a very close environment. And the other thing is the frustration boils over in a situation like the Terps where you've lost a lot of painfully close games. So it's a little bit of a powder keg to begin with, and then you add the emotion of not playing particularly well in the early going against the team you feel like you should trash. And most of these squabbles, Bruce, are generally not as public as the one last night, and I really believe that 90% of those that happen on a lot of teams are ones that are never seen and never have to be shared and never have to be commented upon by the coach or by the PR staff. I'm not going to say it's nothing, but to me, it's fairly minor.
Well, I hope that's the case because, it's a funny thing about Mitchell. One thing you have to say about him, he plays almost with more enthusiasm consistently than almost anybody on the team. And when, I didn't see anything. All I knew is that people behind me kept asking me, the fans in the seats, they said, what happened to Chuck Mitchell? I didn't know what they were talking about. And then all of a sudden it hit Twitter like a bomb.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you that he plays with an energy. When he's really got the motor going, he does play with great energy, and it makes him very, very valuable. That said, you can't let the demons of immaturity sort of take over in a situation like that. Everybody's frustrated. Everybody's a little bit pissed. I get that, but you just can't let that happen at all when you're playing. Part of participating in a long season like that is trying to keep an even keel. The other part about it, the part that concerned me more than that, to be honest with you, Bruce, is that I think that when you have strong leaders on a team, stuff like that is very rarely happens because guys know that they have to answer for it. And that's one of the things that, maybe Mark Turgeon might be thinking about a little bit today, and I haven't spoken to him, so I'm just basically, I'm shooting in the dark here, but I just think that, if there's a policeman in that locker room, then guys like that are a little bit more reluctant to do things like what Chuck did. But he's a young guy. I think he probably felt badly about it this morning, and I think that it's probably one of those things where you probably have to address it some form or fashion if you're Mark Turgeon, but my guess is that all was probably much better today.
16-14 the team is. 5 games it could have been won on the last possession. They lost all 5 of them. Had they won 2 of them, 3 of them, this would be an entirely different season. And as poorly as they played against Syracuse, they had a shot to win that game. They played great against Duke. The ball hangs on the rim and falls out. I told Dustin Clark last night, I said, maybe next year the ball falls in. Maybe next year, it seems like over a career it breaks even out. But Chris, you're there every game. Has this team been just really unlucky, or is it just they don't have that guy who can make the winning basket?
Yes. A little bit of both. I do think they've been a little bit snake bit. You make your own luck in those situations, and they just the same level of talent that they've had that they have that allows them to compete in games like that against top 5 teams. Lets them down a little bit in the end. They've had choices, and I think back. I know this is one of the 5 games you talked about, but think back to the first game against UConn up at Barclays Center, and you don't know. I mean, this is just conjecture, but sometimes seasons will turn on a play here or a play there or a play not made. And in the situation that I'm talking, Des had 2 shots at the bucket in the last minute of that game, either one of which would have won. You wonder if in a situation like that, a close win, not exactly on the road, but you're playing Connecticut in their backyard, a close win in that situation, you wonder if things would have gone a little bit differently for this club the rest of the way. But they didn't go in. It didn't happen for them. So a little bit snake bit, and also, struggling to find that right formula for how to close out games like that.
All right, they're up against the wall now. They're not going to get an NCAA bid unless they pull the miracle and win 4 games in 4 days, and it's highly doubtful. But Chris Nocky, pretend you're the coach right now. What do you do in this upcoming ACC tournament? Do you change things up, or you would think, and Coach Turgeon is pretty ingenious when it comes to things like that. What do you think? What would you do if you were in that position with this team?
I'd keep it business as usual. To be honest with you, I'd probably be generous with minutes, just to keep guys fresh and on the floor, because if they're going to win the tournament, you're going to have to do it 1 game at a time over the course of 4 days. It's a long haul. But, they've proven that they can play with absolutely everybody. And so I don't think you have to change up too much. You just have to have a motivated, focused group. That, the problem with them, Bruce, is that they haven't been able to, the consistency of effort just hasn't been there. They will play 6 or 7 minutes where they're lights out, and they're terrific, and they've got a lot of different options, and they look, like the '86 Celtics a little bit. And then you wonder, they go into those droughts and those fits where just nothing goes right for them. So they have to somehow figure out a way to iron out that those peaks and valleys. But I think the system is there. I think they got the players to do it. They need some guys to step up inside over the course of the next couple of weeks. But I would keep it business as usual.
How about a lot of people criticize Coach Turgeon in that final 10 seconds against Syracuse for not calling a timeout. And I got to tell you something. When this team calls a timeout and they try and run a set play, it just doesn't work. To me, I wasn't crazy about Nick's shot at the end, but at least, he could have gotten a foul. It could have gone in. To me, that's what you do with this team.
Well, I can tell you that Mark Turgeon's like any other real quality coach. He works on those situations all the time in practice. You also keep in the back of your mind that if you call timeout, you allow Syracuse to set up that 2-3 zone, which was formidable all night long. And you put yourself in a position where players can make a play and hopefully win that game for you. So I myself would have done it exactly the same way. I was glad to see he didn't call timeout, but it didn't happen for him. And Turge is a lightning rod because he's the head coach of a team and a program that's got a lot of tradition, a lot of history. And I think he's very sensitive to that. I think he understands what's at hand here. I do think that he's recruited well. He continues to recruit well. I've seen his practices. I mean, I think they're terrific. These guys play hard. You know, they really work at it. And to your point, you know, sometimes I'm close enough to hear them, you know, some of the things that are going on in a huddle, and they'll walk out of the huddle 10 seconds later, and a guy isn't where Turds just drew up on the board where he's supposed to be. Or they'll come out of a huddle, you know, intending to press full court when the other team has the ball, and, you know, the ball's not picked up at the end line. So it is amazing the drop-off sometimes out of those timeouts, to your point.
Yeah, it is amazing, and it's downright frustrating and almost heartbreaking. I mean, and let me tell you, one thing about Mark Turgeon, he does not take losses well. Right?
Oh, no. Well, you know, for better or for worse, I get him right in the locker room right after those games, or right outside the locker room, and it's, you know, it's not frightening in the way that Gary used to be frightening after games, but, you know, you definitely feel it.
Yeah, I learned one thing with Gary, that when I went to the press conference after a loss, I never asked a question because it was Russian roulette. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've all felt the wrath, I think, once or twice.
Yeah, a true legend, and let's face it, it's hard to follow a legend, and following Gary Williams was not going to be easy, and it hasn't proven to be so. But wow, you can't. The work ethic and the recruiting efforts and everything about Turgeon is so perfect that at the end of the day, you know, a couple of those shots go in and everything is different, and it's really sad.
Yeah, well, I think my guess is at the end of his tenure, and I think it's a long way away, I think that people will look back and these will be blips on the radar screen. I think he's destined to do some really great things, and I hope he does, because he's impossible not to like and not to respect in terms of his commitment to what he's doing.
Chris, one more question before I let you go, and we've got to ask you this. Your favorite all-time Maryland game, and let's leave the championship victory out of it. Outside of that game, what was your most memorable moment for the Terps with the ACC?
Yeah, you know, a couple come to mind. One of them wasn't an ACC game, but during their tenure in the ACC, you know, the game up against UConn to go in Syracuse to get to that Final Four when they won the national championship. That was just two very, very good basketball teams. And I remember, you know, just a humongous shot by Juan Dixon from the top of the key, a three that sort of changed the momentum in that game. You know, in terms of the ACC games, you know, it's hard. You'd be hard pressed. I think everybody point out some Duke games that Blake stole the ball games, but some of my favorite, because of the pace they were played at, were some of the the Gary Williams wins against Roy Williams at Comcast, where, you know, Roy's never shy about running. In fact, they want to play giddy up. And I think about Gravis getting a triple-double in their one game. One of the greatest games I've ever seen Maryland ends up coming down from. I think they were 10 or 11 down in the last 4 minutes, came back, forced overtime, and Gravis blocked a shot by Ty Lawson in the overtime. Terps ended up winning it. That might be one of my single favorite games.
You go back to that UConn game, you look at UConn with Karan Butler, who had just an incredible game, and Ben Gordon and Emeka Okafor, and you wonder how Maryland could beat that team with the personnel they had, but we know why. All right, They had the legend at the helm.
Well, they also had a heck of a lot more depth. You know, one of the things that Masson had shown, I think the game from that same tournament, and you forget all the options that Gary had the luxury of on the bench. Just in terms of his bigs, he had Taj Holden and Ryan Randall. I mean, either one of those guys would be playing 40 minutes on this particular team. Drew Nicholas off the bench as a guard. I mean, he was just a big-time money player.
All right, Chris, last ACC game at College Park, and I have to tell you, I've had about enough of the ACC. Of course, then we have the neutral tournament down in Carolina, right?
Yeah, I agree. You know, I mean, the fact of the matter is that people lament this, Bruce, but it's going to happen, whether you like it or not, and it's time to embrace it. I think that there are some positives that'll come out of it. It'll take a while to develop some of the rivalries that we're used to, but it'll happen. Yeah,
for sure. Chris, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and we'll see you Sunday against UVA.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. All right, this is Bruce Posner. We'll head out to our first break. You're listening here to CBS Sports Radio 1300. And we'll be back in just a few minutes and look at the number one lacrosse team in the country, the University of Maryland Terrapins.
Late delays, most main lines. Good evening. The traffic check brought to you by Science and Kirk. All the crash is gone, but you'll find extra waiting on the outer loop as you head off and on from Wilkins over towards the BW Parkway. In a loop for the backup, leaving 295 into 95. Then you're going to find some more slowing off and on now towards Liberty, trying to ease. Top side still sluggish. Outbound JFX tries to improve. Guilford to Falls. Everything at the Fort McHenry Harbor Tunnels. Extra backing lingers. 95 North actually has a wait from 195 to get you to the Fort McHenry Tunnel. 95 South slows, leaving the Beltway Arbutus, traveling all the way down towards Route 32. Some crashes. Joppa west of Pleasant Plains, Edmondson west of the Beltway. What do you do when you're hurt in a car accident? You call Science and Kirk. Call 1-800-LAWYERS or go to youhavealawyer.com. It's easy. Do it right from your cell phone. When you're hurt, everybody knows Science and Kirk. Call 1-800-LAWYERS or visit youhavealawyer.com. I'm Liz Dravick with traffic. CBS Sports Radio, 1300.
Baltimore now has a 24-hour-a-day all-news radio station. Get traffic weekdays every 5 minutes and nights and weekends every 10 minutes. Plus weather every 4 minutes and the latest news around the clock. Preset your car radio to All News 99.1 WNEW. Baltimore now has a 24-hour-a-day all-news radio station. Get traffic weekdays every 5 minutes and nights and weekends every 10 minutes. Plus weather every 4 minutes and the latest news around the clock. Preset your car radio to All News 99.1 WNEW.
There's no better place in Baltimore to buy your new or used car from than Coons Ford on Security Boulevard, across from Security Mall. Over the years, I have purchased many cars and trucks for GM Dennis Colatzos, receiving the best price, service, and comfort in dealing with a top-notch executive. Coons Ford TerpTalk listeners can view their inventory at CoonsFordBaltimore.com. Coons Ford carries a huge inventory of Motor Trend's Car of the Year, the Fusion, Hybrid Escapes, the 35-mile-per-gallon Focus, Mustangs, Expeditions, and of course the F-Series trucks. Coons Ford simply likes to make a little bit of money many times. What a great place to buy your new Ford. That's Coons Ford of Baltimore, 6970 Security Boulevard, across from Security Square Mall. Take exit 17 off of 695. Remember, when you're talking cars, you're talking Coons.
Call 410-298-3800.
Your first choice for filling prescriptions in the Baltimore area should be the James Pharmacy, a Health Mart pharmacy. As a Health Mart pharmacy, the James Pharmacy has a personal commitment to its communities, is locally owned, and the pharmacists know there is nothing more important than your family's well-being. Located for the last century at 1117 Light Street in Federal Hill, the James Pharmacy is owned and operated by Avi Pelta, a University of Maryland pharmacy school graduate. Though located in Federal Hill, the James Pharmacy delivers at no charge to the entire Baltimore metro area. Outside of Baltimore, no problem. The James Pharmacy will UPS your prescriptions on a moment's notice. Open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 to 3. Call the James Pharmacy, a Health Mart pharmacy, at 410-752-5810. Remember, Health Mart, caring for you and about you. Kelly Exchange is your one-stop shop for individual and family health insurance coverage. On kellyexchange.com, you can learn about healthcare reform, find out if you qualify for a subsidy, get quotes, compare insurance plans, and purchase coverage. With over 36 years of experience in the insurance industry, kellyexchange.com is the only website you need to help you navigate the complexities and confusion of healthcare reform and purchase quality insurance for you and your family. Visit kellyexchange.com today.
My name is Mark Apple, and I'm a consumer bankruptcy attorney with Waldman, Grossfeld, Apple, and Bear. If you're afraid of losing your home, you're afraid of wages being garnished, call me, 410-437-7711, extension 4, and you'll get to my desk. We have offices located all around the Baltimore Beltway. Call me, Mark Apple, 410-437-7711, extension 4.
No one likes lawyers until they need one. But if you've dealt with an insurance company, you know that you're not in good hands, they're not good neighbors, and they're not on your side. I'm Mike Grossfeld. At Waldman Grossfeld Apple & Bear, we've been protecting the rights of people for over 40 years. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, hurt on the job, or have suffered at the hands of a negligent doctor, call me, Mike Grossfeld, at 888-8-LEGAL-6. That's 888-8-LEGAL-6. We'll fight for you.
Isn't it time for your family to have the services of a financial planner? Call Rob Weissman, a chartered financial consultant. Rob has provided financial planning, investments, and insurance products to the Baltimore community for over 24 years. Rob will provide a free consultation, review your financial positions, and make recommendations. He will monitor your financial plan on an ongoing basis. Call Rob Weissman, 410-653-6260. Rob Weissman is a registered representative of Salmon Security Company, member FINRA SIPC.
This is Nico Amato. You're listening to Terp Talk with Bruce Posner.
Welcome back to Coons Ford Terp Talk. Call 410-481-1300 now. Once again, here's Bruce Posner.
All right, this season, the 2013 Championship Bayhawks and Lexus are giving away an ES350 to one lucky season ticket holder at the last game of the season. Every season ticket purchase will amount to one entry to the giveaway. 2014 season tickets are available and going fast. Call the box office at 866-99-HAWKS or visit them at www.thebayhawks.com to purchase your seats to all the action today. The season kicks off May 3rd at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Don't miss out. Joe Walters and Brendan Mundorf are now part of this championship team who's looking to repeat, and nobody does it better than Dave Cottle, their head coach. Get out to the phones right now, and the guy who nobody does it better than when it comes to selling Fords, and that's my good buddy, Dennis Kalatzis. Dennis, how are you today?
I'm great, Bruce.
Dennis, you happy with the Pitta signing?
I have mixed feelings about it. I think they got good value for Dennis. Looking at the tight end market, most of the top guys are right around $7 million a year. But then again, he's also 29, coming off a major injury. He admitted today that he wasn't 100% when he came back last year naturally, but I don't know. I'm a right player, right price kind of a guy. I would have picked two tight ends in this year's draft. I'm all about the salary cap. I'm always thinking about tomorrow. So, again, I have mixed feelings about the signings.
Let me ask you, do you think, I personally think that perhaps the signing of Dennis Pitta might be a blessing for Matt Furstenberg, because they're obviously not going to waste a top pick on a tight end. And I doubt that they're going to give Dixon, or they have money to even give Dixon anything. It might open up a shot for Maryland's Matt Furstenberg.
It might, but again, I'm taking the third round, C.J. Federwitz out of Iowa. It's a big tight end, 6'5" and 5'8", 265. In this league, you almost need two tight ends to be successful. So if I'm the Ravens, the big tight end also helps out the offensive line. I think Matt will have a chance regardless of what they do. But you got to have depth, and you got to have guys that can play. And again, Dennis, he's still coming off of an injury.
Without question. Now, I had the pleasure of attending Saturday's game with your son Christos, and I got a semi-lacrosse education. And this kid knows everything there is to know, especially about the local kids. He was telling me everything about kids on Duke and Maryland. But we both left that game extremely impressed with the now number one team in the nation, and that's the Maryland Terrapins and their goalie Nico Amato.
Yeah, he was exuberant about the performance of the Terps, particularly in the second half. You guys saw a great game, and he does have knowledge and passion in regards to the sport. He played against most of those guys anyway prior to his concussion, and he knows everybody everywhere. Notre Dame, Carolina, Maryland, everywhere. Yeah,
a couple things we were talking about, but that he explained to me that I really had known. So the kids really got knowledge, and but it was just amazing. That how Maryland dominated that second half against the national champions. And Maryland now is 4-0 and heading off to Stony Brook. The bad thing about being number one is everybody's gunning for you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you're right about that, but somebody's got to be number one, and I think, I'm sure they'd rather be number one at any point of the season. But to hold a high-powered offense like Duke to one goal in the second half, it's just unheard of. And too bad the game wasn't televised and you guys were able to see it to your benefit. So we had to rely on your expertise to let us know what we missed.
Dennis, speaking about number one, they're always gunning for you at Coons Ford because you're number one. And I know one thing, you got to be number one in inventory, all right?
We wouldn't want it any other way.
That's the only way you want it, right?
We like to be number one. We like being number one all the time, and number one in the volume and the service, customer satisfaction. We want to compete in everything that we do, just like the Terps.
All right, well, you do a tremendous job. And again, I had a service situation the other day. Pulled up, boom, boom, boom. I was gone in 10 minutes. This service staff is second to none, and that, in the end of the day, is what keeps your repeat customers, correct?
I appreciate that. 100% correct, and no appointment necessary. If anybody ever needs service, just stop by, just come on in, and we'll jump on it. So we have 47 service bays and a ton of technicians, and they're all standing by, working on vehicles.
All right, Dennis, thanks a lot for checking in today.
Thanks, Bruce. Go Terps.
All right, let's go out to the audio right now. I had a chance to talk to Nico Amato after the game where he had 17 saves and just played. He was almost unconscious in the goal. We know what the goal is this year, all right? And this team just has a look about it. How good do you feel about this team right now?
I feel like we're just improving each week, and we're really focusing on working hard and learning from our mistakes each week. And, we're really not concerned with the polls, our rankings. We know we're as good as we are on the game day Saturday. So, a couple weeks ago, no one really thought much of us. Now, who knows? We're not really looking to that. We know we got a lot of things to improve on. We got tough opponents down the road. We got Stony Brook this week. So we're going again on our second road trip, which is a challenge in itself. So we got to continue to get better each week.
You know that as a senior leader on the team, along with Mike, you have to keep the freshmen grounded after games like this. Coach Tillman said the guys were like, after beating Syracuse like you did, they were really, he had to bring them back to earth. Now you go to Stony Brook and you know they're gunning for you.
Yeah, all week, Coach preached in the past our teams haven't handled success well, and we knew the score last week was a little bit of a mirage with Charlie doing so well at the face-off X and scoring 10 goals in one quarter. That doesn't really happen a lot. So coming in this week, we really needed to buckle down, but I think the freshmen are pretty mature guys. I think it's a little bit of a misconception that, we got a lot of young guys. We got a lot of veterans on this team, and since day one of being here, the freshmen have been very humble, very hardworking, and there's a lot of veterans around this on this team that show them the way, and they're right behind us to follow, and they're terrific players themselves.
Yeah, that was Nico Amato, and nobody was more terrific than him. He was, again, the defender of the week in the ACC. Just incredible in the nets. And his counterpart for Duke had a pretty strong game, too. But Maryland dominated the game. They could not penetrate Nico, and his defense had a lot to do with it. Let's look down the numbers. The exposition matchup between Charlie Ruff and Brendan Fowler, the great guy who took Duke to the national title. Believe me, that was almost worth the price of admission. Fowler won 11-8, but Charlie really won the key battles when the game was kind of almost ready to turn. He came up with the ball time and time again. Colin Heacock, the boys Latin grad, it was really his first game of significant minutes. This guy is really more than I thought. I mean, it's hard to tell when you look in high school and a team like Boys Latin dominates so many games. But Colin Heacock fit right in as a midfielder, as a big midfielder, scored a goal and set up Rambo with another goal with just an unbelievable pick. And Colin Heacock, and we still don't have the fourth member of the Four Horsemen, along with Canizero and Rambo and Colin Heacock, and that'll be, of course, Timmy Rotance. He's on his way back. So what a freshman class that this John Tillman has put together. Goran Murray, a long stick defender, did a great job on Jordan Wolfe. You can't shut down Jordan Wolfe. Jordan Wolfe wound up with 2 goals and an assist, but that paled in his comparison to his previous games, and he really shut him down in the second half with no points. And the ground ball battle, as always, it's been won by Maryland, 32-26. 6 ground balls by long stick midi Michael Earhart, who is moving himself up the scale of honor and proving why he was the first pick in the MLL draft. Shot of the day was a sidearm whip shot by Jolo. It's Joe Locascio. After a few, I would thought, relatively weak shots, he just really fired up and just really whipped the ball into the net. And, Maryland's for real. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it was just a great game to be a Terp fan. And after that, I walked down to watch Jake Stinnett at the end of the first no-hitter for Maryland since 2008. Jake Stinnett struck out Paul Yanakopoulos in the last out of the game. He was incredible, and this is coming off a one-hit performance for 8 games. So he was the ACC Pitcher of the Week, and this week he was the National Pitcher of the Week. Jake Stinnett is the real deal. Beth Glaros and Taylor Cummings led Maryland to a 19-10 thrashing of Duke in lacrosse. They remain number 2 in the nation. And, of course, I don't have to go into that Clemson game because it just made me sick on Sunday, the double overtime. And, of course, hats off to Alyssa Thomas as 7,100 people watched number 25, Journey to the Rafters, as Maryland, as usual, crushed the team 87-48 over Virginia Tech. Not a good week for Virginia Tech in basketball. And you can have 2 more shots to catch Alyssa as she will be playing in the NCAA tournament at College Park in the first 2 rounds. So before we go to our second break, tell you about Baltimore Neurosurgery and Spine Center, whose goal is to provide the highest quality of care to their patients. They strive to apply leading-edge treatment strategies, including complex spine or brain surgery, interventional pain management, and physical therapy. The group is led by my cousin, Dr. Ira Goranczyk, who's joined by Dr. James Conway, Dr. H. Christopher Lawson, and Dr. James Frazier in the field of neurological and spine surgery. Dr. Seth Kaufman specializes in interventional pain management. Baltimore Neurosurgery and Spine Center is located at 5051 Greenspring Avenue. Call for an appointment at 410-664-3680. This is Bruce Posner. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio here on 1300 AM in B-Town. There's no better place in Baltimore to buy your new or used car than Coons Ford on Security Boulevard, across from Security Mall. Let's talk Coons pre-owned certified used cars. All of our listeners can buy with confidence. Coons Ford of Baltimore has an exclusive 7-day exchange policy. If for any reason whatsoever customers want to exchange a vehicle within 7 days, no problem. Coons Ford simply likes to make a little bit of money many times. That is why they take a lot of time to make sure we have the lowest priced pre-owned vehicles on the web. When our listeners go to our website, CoonsBaltimoreFord.com, they will see all of the outstanding values we have to offer. That's Coons Ford of Baltimore, 6970 Security Boulevard, across from Security Square Mall. Remember, when you're talking cars, you're talking Coons.
Call 410-298-3800.
Dr. Gaber and Associates is more than an internal medicine practice. Both offices are completely equipped with physical therapy services, run by an experienced staff of registered physical therapists, Elliot Weiner, Mark Smearman, and Ken Miller. They treat arthritis, sports, auto or work injuries, post-op conditions, and more. After an initial evaluation, a treatment program is individualized and can include modalities such as neuromuscular re-education, ultrasound, muscle stimulation, traction, work conditioning, and balance training. Don't forget it's flu season, and flu shots are now recommended for all age groups, including healthy, low-risk persons. And there's more. Dr. Gaber's practice does not have the dreaded voicemail. You will always talk to a friendly staff member. So if you are in need of a private physician, call 410-986-4400 for Dr. Gaber's office at 341 Calvert Street, and 410-653-8840 for the office at 1838 Green Tree Road in Pikesville. Easy parking at both locations. The therapy office is open Saturdays 9 to 1, and Dr. Gaber accepts nearly all insurances.
Baltimore, listen up. If you want crabs, you have to head to the Costas Inn on North Point Boulevard. There is no comparison in all of Maryland for the greatest crabs and crab cakes ever. Costas also serves unbelievable steamed shrimp, Greek salads, and steaks for lunch and dinner. Nick, Pete, and Costas Triantopoulos run the perfect restaurant to go with family and friends. Give Costas in a call at 410-477-1975 and tell them the Terp Talk guy sent you. Trust, honesty, integrity. That's the motto of Offit & Roth, PA, certified public accountants and business consultants. Clients of Offit & Roth get personalized quality service that is beyond comparison. Check out their extensive list of services at www.offitroth.com. Co-founder Alan Roth and his son Michael, a Maryland graduate, have extensive experience working with clients in virtually every industry. Call Offit & Roth at 410-356-6600. I just discovered a great little neighborhood gourmet pizza and Italian-type restaurant in the Harbor area. Bagby Pizza on 1006 Fleet Street is just a great, fun place to have lunch or dinner 7 days a week. Bagby's features gourmet pizza, pastas, and salads at more than reasonable prices. Service is quick. There's plenty of seating. Happy hour specials Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. But most important, the food is superb. Bagby Pizza, 410-605-0444. Billy Shriver and Terry Aronson's Tark's Grill in Green Springs Station has taken the town by storm. Everyone says the food is superb. Great salads, burgers, and steaks, and the seafood dishes are beyond expectation. At Tark's, the menu includes everything from light fare on up. Once you go, you will fall in love with the food and fun atmosphere and the reasonable pricing of this upscale restaurant. Call 410-583-TARK for reservations. When it's time to sell your house in the Baltimore area, there is no one better in the entire region than Harriet Wasserman and her entire marketing group. Harriet and her Prudential team are synonymous with sales success. The Wasserman team understands every facet of selling your house in this market. Call 410-458-5300 or check out their website at www.wassermanteam.com. Call Harriet Wasserman 410-458-5300.
If things in your life are looking blurry, there's only one place to go to see straight again, and that's Levin Eye Care. Dr. Howard Levin and Dr. Richard Levin, both University of Maryland alums, have 35 years of combined experience in serving the eye care needs of their patients. With 2 great offices in Perry Hall and Parkville, these doctors can address any concerns about your vision. Call 410-529-1950 to set up an appointment. Levin Eye Care accepts most medical insurance, including Medicare.
Tune in to the Norris and Davis Show every weekday morning for the NorrisFord.com 5 at 25 to win great prizes courtesy of NorrisFord.com.
This is Alex Lamb. You're listening to TerpTalk with a Booster Posse.
This is Coons Ford Terp Talk. Call 410-481-1300 now. Once again, here's Bruce Posner.
All right, back here on segment 3 of Coons 4 Terp Talk, and you just heard the voice of Alex Len, who got his first start with the Phoenix Suns yesterday. 6 points, 6 rebounds in 19 minutes, and he had the, I'll say, the misfortune of having to play against Blake Griffin and the Clippers, and of course the Clippers defeating Golden State as they're really defeating everybody right now. But it was nice to see him get his first start, basically due to the injury to Miles Plumlee. But at least he started, so it's a step for Alex in the right direction. All right, on the phone right now to go back through some of the history of Maryland basketball in the ACC is my good buddy from Boca, and that, of course, is Freddie. Freddie, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bruce?
Doing good. Freddie, I had asked Chris Nockey as what his most memorable game, and he goes back to the triple-double night of Gravis Vasquez against Carolina. Let's look back over the years at a few of the games that stand out. Why don't we go back and forth? I'll let you go first.
Well, to me, the most exciting game I've ever been in my life was the Maryland-South Carolina stall game where it was 4-3 Maryland at the half, and Maryland wins in overtime 31-30.
Certainly was, and that game was precipitated by a battle down in South Carolina, if I remember correctly.
There was a riot. Howard White broke the Columbia Coliseum record, scoring 38 points, and Howard, being black, didn't do well with the Southerners, and there was an actual riot on the floor, and South Carolina came to Maryland a couple of weeks later as a number 2 team in the country.
Right, and Lefty was involved in that battle down there with
John Reebok was a 6'8" forward that supposedly took a swing at lefty during the melee.
Yeah, it was a great win for Maryland. It really probably signaled the turn of Maryland basketball back to somewhat prominence, because this was before the McMillan-Elmore era.
Right. The stars of the team were Howard White, a sophomore, and Jim O'Brien, a sophomore.
Yeah, it was a great day for the University of Maryland, that game. I go back, my all-time memory would be the game against Duke at College Park when Steve Blake stole the ball. And it was at halftime, and Jason Williams was kind of looking at Coach K, and Blake came up and, like, from the blind side, took the ball, went in for a layup. And Maryland, not that triggered anything, but Maryland did wind up winning the national title that game.
I think that was the signature play for the season, that steal.
It's the one you certainly remember. All right, your turn now. Give me another one.
The largest crowd ever to see a basketball game at College Park at Cole was Maryland against North Carolina in 1972, over 15,000. Maryland beat a Carolina team that had Bobby Jones, Bob McAdoo, George Carl, and Dennis Wysick, 4 guys that played professional basketball on their team, and Terp speed in overtime.
Of course, I go back at when on my share of the turn, I go back to a game that they actually lost the Terps, and that, of course, was that absolutely incredible game against David Thompson, Super Bowl Sunday. Kind of like with David Thompson, one of the great college players of all time.
I would say the greatest college player of all time, in my estimation.
You certainly could arguably say that. He was unbelievable. And David Thompson, if I remember, tipped in a ball at the buzzer to beat Maryland, who had, if I remember correctly, a pretty large lead in that game, and it wilted away down the wire as not that year. I think the next year NC State went on to win it all. Is that correct?
I believe so, and then beating us in the overtime game in the ACC final.
Correct. All right, your turn now. You go.
I would have to think. I'm going to go with with Chris Nockey going not out of conference, but the Maryland-Connecticut game was unbelievably good. That should have been the championship game. That was such a wonderfully played college basketball game, and Dixon made the big three at the top of the key late in the game, and that's a great Maryland game.
Well, I'm going to throw up one in that I think you really loved the game, but I remember it well, and that was our victory the second time the Terps won the ACC title under Gary Williams, when John Gilchrist had a 3-day run, one of the great runs by a Maryland player ever.
And by any ACC player ever in the tournament, that's as good as it gets.
Right. He was absolutely incredible. And I'll never forget, I flew down that Sunday with Stan DeFan to go to that game in particular, because Stan was living down there at that point. And it was just a game. Duke had vanquished Maryland a few times with big comebacks, and we go back to the Super Bowl when Super Bowl Saturday, when they came back from 11 down with a minute left. And Maryland, if I remember correctly, Freddie, was down about 12 points with 5 minutes left. Came back to send it to overtime, and then in overtime, they just really ran away with it and defeated Duke and won the ACC title, which still holds a lot of weight. It would have been great if we could have won a few more, but in the modern day basketball that I remember, there were 2 of them, and I think there was one in the 50s as well. All right, your game now. This go on all night, I think.
I think a Maryland game, the terrible heartbreak game. We mentioned the overtime Carolina State game. The Buck Williams game where he is ridden out by Kenny Denard.
Without question. That was the finals.
End of the game. Yes, it was.
That was the finals of an ACC tournament. And you sent me a picture of that was absolutely unbelievable, how Kenny Denard undercut Buck Williams. Literally, almost submarined them. Nothing was called. Nothing happened. Maryland lost the game. So many games to think of. But I think of... I remember
one game that wasn't a conference game that really put Maryland on the map was when Maryland opened up their season against Bill Walton and UCLA.
Lost by 1, right?
Yeah, I think it was December 1st, 1973.
Lucas dribbled off his leg or
Dave
off his
Myers
knee.
Came out with a switch. But in the first play of the game, Lenny Elmore blocks Walton's shot, and Maryland all of a sudden was playing the UCLA, they were the Yankees. They were the Montreal Canadiens.
They certainly were in the midst of a long run of national championships. I go back to Gravis's last game at College Park when Maryland beat Duke to get a co-share of the regular season title. And just the way that was a court storming that I do remember, and one that was called for. Gravis, to me, maybe my favorite Terp of all time, just for his heart and the way that, he put everything into every game. Gravis was special. And you think about all these games, and a new era, a new legacy starts next year. But so there's one game left on Sunday, and it's sold out, Freddie. You had asked me that before, and I just got a note from Sean Ellerby from Maryland that the game is a sellout on Sunday. It'll be a special game. It really will be, being that it's the last game. It's a little sad that it's not going to mean anything to Virginia, because it doesn't mean much to Maryland except it's the last game. But Virginia, I think, is virtually locked in as the champion right now. Is that correct?
It seems to me they're playing the best ball in the conference right now.
2-game lead, and with the game in hand against Syracuse, and I don't know that anybody can take them over. What's your take on the collapse of Syracuse? 4 out of 5 losses.
Tired team. They played a lot of minutes. They didn't get very deep off their bench, and just might have been they're either they're like on cruise control, trying to save some energy and build energy up for the tournament, or they're a beaten horse.
Yeah. Without question. And, of course, last Sunday was the last game at College Park, except for the tournament that's coming up for the women. And that, of course, was Alyssa Thomas. What an unbelievable career she's had, Freddie.
I guess you'd have to put her as the best player ever to play at Maryland, the way she plays.
Yeah, well, certainly.
She's right there.
She's certainly there, along with Christy Tolliver and Crystal Langhorne and Vicky Bullitt.
I think she's better than Tolliver. I think she's better than Langhorne.
Yeah, she's going to break.
She has elements of both of their games in her game.
Yeah, she's had elements of everything, and Maryland once again rises to the tournament, and they'll be certainly ranked there. And with that, Freddie, we're out of time, my man. Thanks for checking in.
Go Terps.
All right. We go back and look at the ACC days for Maryland, and there's just one last accomplishment that I want to see happen. Hasn't been a great year for basketball. Certainly we got to a bowl in football, and the non-revenue sports have been great. Sasho got to the finals of the national championship, lost the game, and same with the field hockey squad. But there's that 39-year vacancy with the University of Maryland as the national champions of lacrosse. Is this the year? I kind of wish that Maryland could have been number 1, could have been still number 3 and been undefeated. But when you beat number 1 teams back to back, there's no question about the quality of your wins. And now Maryland's got a couple games, so they got to head down to Carolina to play what probably then will be the number 2 team in the nation. And I think in one poll they are right now. Or actually, with their loss last Sunday to Notre Dame, they might have dropped to 3 or 4. But Carolina's a great team, very, very deep. And Maryland plays them in a couple Saturdays, 3 Saturdays. They go to Stony Brook this week, come back to play Villanova on Friday night, as John Tillman, because of his tremendous recruiting in Philadelphia, has added Villanova to almost the permanent schedule, home and away every other year. And then they go to Carolina, and eventually there's a team waiting down the road, which the rivalry team, and that, of course, is Johns Hopkins, our new member in the Big Ten. And I want to tell you this much, Johns Hopkins is for real. They're undefeated. Went to Princeton and took care of a very, very strong Princeton team on the road. They're undefeated. Maryland's undefeated. Will that last to that game? I only hope it does, because it'll be over down at Homewood, and Maryland will come in hopefully still as number 1. Maybe Hopkins will be 2. I look forward to that game already. Maryland also has to play against 3 more ACC games. I said Carolina and, of course, Notre Dame. And now, all of a sudden, an undefeated Virginia with tremendous offense. Dom Starzia just never stays down for a year. He's back already. And it's going to be a great lacrosse season. I love this Maryland team. I really do. Saturday on the American East Network, if you want to watch it for free, 1 o'clock. Maryland's at Stony Brook. Sunday, high noon. If you don't have your tickets now, you better go to StubHub because that's the only place to get them. And that's against the University of Virginia in Maryland's final game. I'll be there. Stop by and say hello if you wish. And for that, it will wrap us up here for, and also the Maryland women, of course, in the ACC tournament. They start on, I think, Thursday. So this is Bruce Posner signing off. We thank Chris Nockey and Freddie and Dennis Kolotzis for chiming in tonight. We'll see you on Saturday on the Sports Maven, brought to you by Coons Ford.
Baltimore now has a 24-hour-a-day all-news radio station. Get traffic weekdays every 5 minutes and nights and weekends every 10 minutes. Plus weather every 4 minutes and the latest news around the clock. Preset your car radio to All News 99.1 WNEW. Baltimore now has a 24-hour-a-day all-news radio station. Get traffic weekdays every 5 minutes and nights and weekends every 10 minutes. Plus weather every 4 minutes and the latest news around the clock. Preset your car radio to All News 99.1 WNEW.
Access Title Company, LLC, brings to you experience, relationship, and peace of mind. All great reasons to choose Access Title Company as your residential and commercial real estate settlement company. Choosing a reputable, experienced title company is crucial to a smooth settlement process. Our staff of attorneys and experienced personnel is committed to helping you through the complete process, with personal attention, competitive rates, and prompt service. Access Title Company goes anywhere in the state of Maryland to perform your settlement at no additional cost to you. That's why we're Access Title. Please call Melanie, our operations manager, at 410-363-8785 for additional information. That's Access Title Company at 410-363-8785.
It's my pleasure to welcome the Supreme Neighborhood Market Gourmet again to the TerpTalk family. Now under the new ownership of Andy Huffman, Gourmet again on 3717 Old Court Road continues its tradition of being a specialty food market with all meals, soups, and sandwiches being homemade. My family and all of Northwest Baltimore knows that Gourmet again is the best market around. Let Gourmet again cater any party or special occasion that you are having. I absolutely love Gourmet again. Call 410-484-9393. Gourmet Again is open 7 days a week. Visit them on the web at gourmetagain.com. The phone number, once again, 410-484-9393. That's Gourmet Again. Kelly Exchange is your one-stop shop for individual and family health insurance coverage. On kellyexchange.com, you can learn about healthcare reform, find out if you qualify for a subsidy, get quotes, compare insurance plans, and purchase coverage. With over 36 years of experience in the insurance industry, kellyexchange.com is the only website you need to help you navigate the complexities and confusion of healthcare reform and purchase quality insurance for you and your family. Visit kellyexchange.com today. Cunningham's, part of the Bagby chain, the newest restaurant in town at One Olympic Place in Towson. Free valet parking, open every night. The food there is fantastic. I've been there. Decor, the whole atmosphere at Cunningham's is super. I highly, highly recommend it. But of course, when it's part of the Bagby chain and the Smith family, you know it's going to be a success. 410-339-7730. That's Cunningham's at One Olympic Place in Towson. The Comans Brothers in Superior Tours. $32 to either the Trop or Caesar's Palace, and you get $30 back. It only costs you a deuce to go to AC. $63 round trip to New York City for a one-day trip. You got to go and come back the same day, but it only costs $63. You can't beat that. 410-602-1704. That's Superior Tours and the Comans Brothers. 410-602-1704. Mark Atman and Atman's Delicatessen have been serving Baltimore for over 81 years. It's just a fact that Atman's, open 7 days a week at 1019 East Lombard Street, has the best corned beef and deli in town. But now they've expanded into the catering side. Have a Lombard Street party or use Atman's for your condolence trays. Check it out on atmansdeli.com or call 410-563-2666 and ask for Elaine. I love Atman's Deli. Bagby Restaurant Group presents 1010. That's 1010 Restaurant on 1010 Fleet Street. 410-244-6867. This is Southern style cooking. It's a great atmosphere, a great bar, great Sunday brunches, and I want to tell you, the food is off the charts. Blake Smith and his family really know how to present food in a restaurant. It is super, just like Bagby's Pizza is. That's 1010 Restaurant on 1010 Fleet Street. 410-244-6867.
The opinions expressed in the preceding paid program do not necessarily represent those of WJZ AM 1300, CBS Radio, its employees and sponsors.